A Hanuman Story for Ram Dass. This is a small tale taken from that great epic, the Ramayana. I will not recount here all the adventures you're about to read in this book, for you will hear and see them yourselves soon enough. And I will not speak of Lord Rama's banishment to the forest for 14 years, nobly honoring the vows of his father Dasaratha, and how his wife Sita and his brother Lakshman accompanied him there. I will not tell you of how Ravana, the 10-headed demon, kidnapped Rama's wife Sita, taking her away in an aerial chariot to his kingdom in Lanka, all unbeknownst to Ram and Lakshman. Nor how Sita, crying piteously for help and in an attempt to tell others of her plight, threw her jewelry off that aerial chariot, which was witnessed by the two monkeys, Hanuman and Sugriva. Nor will I describe how Ram and Lakshman, while searching for Sita, met Hanuman and Sugriva, and the two monkeys gave Rama Sita's jewels, which had been thrown by her from the chariot. Your heart will be broken when you hear Rama's lament how his wife had been taken, but your hope will be renewed when you hear Hanuman and Sugriva vow to help Ram find Sita and bring her back, and how a great monkey army built a bridge from India to Lanka out of stone, so that Ram and Lakshman could cross the ocean to fight Ravana and rescue Sita. And remains of that bridge can still be seen today. I will not mention how, in the midst of the battle with Ravana, Lakshman was mortally wounded, and Hanuman flew from Lanka to the Himalaya to find the Sanjivani medicinal herbs that could save Lakshman's life. And although he found the Dronagiri mountain where they grew, Hanuman did not know which were the life-restoring plants, and so he picked up the whole mountaintop and carried it back to Lanka in his hands, and Lakshman lived. No, I must not talk of all this, for this is all in the story of that great epic. Instead, I want to tell you what happens when you really listen to a story, and especially the story of the Ramayana. For this is what happened to Ram Dass, who this book is dedicated to. When he heard the story of Ram and Sita and Lakshman and Hanuman, he jumped into the ocean, and myself and many of my generation jumped in after him. This is about what happens when you really listen to the Ramayana, for even a fool will be compelled to enter into this ocean of wisdom and wonder. For this is a tale about God. This is a story about what is real. And this is a story about you and me. And it goes like this. A villager who had no sense of culture and no interest in it either, was married to a woman who was greatly cultured. She tried various ways to develop his taste for the higher things in life, but he just wasn't interested. One day, a great reciter of the Ramayana came to the village where they lived. Every evening he would sing, dramatize, and sometimes explain the verses of that great epic. The whole village went to this one-man performance as if it were a rare feast, and the woman, who was married to the uncultured dolt, tried to interest him in the performance. She nagged him, trying to force him to go and listen. And this time, he grumbled as usual, but he decided to humor her. So he went in the evening, and he sat at the back. It was an all-night performance, and he just couldn't keep awake. So he slept through the night. And Early in the morning, when the reciter had sung the closing verses for that day, sweets were distributed according to custom, and someone put some in the mouth of the sleeping man. He woke up soon after and went home, and his wife was delighted that her husband had stayed through the night and asked him eagerly how he enjoyed the Ramayana. And he said, it was very sweet. And the wife was happy to hear about it. So encouraged by his response, the next day too, she insisted on his listening to the epic. So again, he went to where the reciter was performing, sat against the wall, and before long he fell fast asleep. The place was crowded, and a young boy sat on his shoulder and made himself comfortable, listening open-mouthed to the fascinating story. In the morning, when the night's portion of the story had come to an end, everyone got up, and so did the husband. The boy had left earlier, but the man, he felt aches and pains from the weight of the boy he had borne all night. And when he went home and his wife asked him eagerly how it was, he said, it got heavier and heavier by morning. And the wife said, well, that's the way the story is. She was so happy that her husband was at last beginning to feel the emotions and the greatness of the epic. On the third day, she prevailed upon him to go again, and he sat at the edge of the crowd and became so sleepy that he lay down on the floor and began to snore. Early in the morning, a dog came that way and pissed into his mouth just before he woke up to go home. When his wife asked him how it was, he moved his mouth this way and that. He made a face and he said, it was terrible. It was so salty. Now his wife knew something was wrong. She asked him exactly what was happening, and she didn't let up until he finally told her how he had been sleeping through the performance every night. So, on the fourth day, his wife went with him, sat him down in the very first row, and told him sternly that he should keep awake no matter what might happen. So he sat dutifully in the front row, and he began to listen. Very soon, he was caught up in the adventures and the characters of the great epic story. On that day, the reciter was enchanting the audience with a description of how Hanuman the monkey had to leap across the ocean to take Rama's ring to Sita. And as Hanuman was flying across the ocean, the ring slipped from his hand and fell into the sea. Hanuman didn't know what to do. He had to get the ring back quickly and take it to Sita, who was held captive in the demon's kingdom. Without the ring, Sita would not know that Rama yearned for her, that he was looking for her, and that he was soon coming for her. Without the ring, Sita might die in despair. So, while Hanuman was wringing his hands, the husband, who was listening with rapt attention in the first row, yelled out, "Hanuman, don't worry, I'll get it for you." And then he jumped up and dived into the sea. He found the ring on the ocean floor, brought it back, and gave it to Hanuman. Everyone was astonished. They thought this man was someone special, really blessed by Ram and Hanuman, and ever since he has been respected in the village as a wise elder, and he has also behaved like one too. And that's what happens when you really listen to a story, and especially to the Ramayana.